United States government and more than 60 civil society organizations recently convened for the first ever summit on marine biodiversity conservation and protection. Here to share with us ways to mitigate illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing activities of domestic and foreign fleets, we have with us USAID Fish Right Chief of Parity, Nygiel Armada. Nygiel, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on The Final Word. So, what was achieved in this first ever civil society organization summit?
Yeah, first of all, we have a number of CSOs operating in the area. There are just a few of them initially. And we noticed that they haven't have the common understanding or common even agenda for West Philippine Sea. They are working independently from each other. And this summit put them all together in one place and understanding one another's aspirations. At the same time, also understanding what they have in common and what they have to share with each other.
What were some of the major milestones in this CSO summit?
One of them is that they together they agreed that their really focus is the curbing or more or less preventing the illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. That's foremost. And the second one is there is really that big need for capacity building among themselves, and as well as among their constituents, the fisher folk themselves. And the third one is that there is that big need for alternative livelihood in the area. This was all identified. And of course, there are other elements like the climate change that you have to deal with. And of course, the intrusion of foreign vessels.
So that basically was addressed. The fisher folks harassed by some Chinese fishermen as reported.
Yes. Unfortunately, people have been telling us narratives about that, and that was quite sad, a number of them. And their response are actually very independent of each other. That means that they're doing it to ensure that they can still fish in that area. But now they realize that together they can do more. So by talking to each other, they see their common issues, they see their common threats from the foreign vessels. So now they're starting to talk to each other.
So major milestones were achieved during this CSO summit. How will these milestones be used in preparation for the international WPS summit this coming August?
One of the big milestones for this is also the understanding the research need, the understanding about the science. And this coming international conference on West Philippine Sea is exactly about putting together the scientists in the area, not just from the Philippines, but also from the countries around us in one place. And that will be in August 24 to 25 this year.
And the focal point of the discussion in this first ever CSO summit is also related to the visit of U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris in November of 2022 in Puerto Princesa.
Well, part of that, because the livelihood was also a question that was raised with the Vice President when she came here. But the CSO summit actually was already planned even before the visit of VP Harris. So as early as 2022, the CSOs have already agreed that they have to talk to each other. They have to be in one place at some point to discuss their common issues as well as their common agenda.
And Nygiel, who are basically the prime movers among the local NGOs, the LGUs, and the champion advocates?
First of all, there is that Environmental Legal Assistance Center, which is based in Puerto Princesa. And together with the university, the West Philippine University, as well as NGOs like Tanggol Kalikasan, like Tambuyog, and even the Conservation International, so the big NGOs, they were the first movers of this summit. And from 16, we started with conveners of 16, we end up with around 60 CSOs.
That's multiplied.
That's multiplied.
Yes, indeed, collaboration among the NGOs, the LGUs, and champion advocates. But what about working with the media in raising more awareness about conservation of the West Philippine seascape, laymanizing some issues on biodiversity conservation through environmental journalism? Is there enough support on this end?
It's still coming. We are still dealing with media from the very, very beginning. Of course, it's just a start.
And this is an opportunity.
It's an opportunity
yes,
for
to
us.
Voice out your concerns and to raise more awareness and educate our kababayans about the issues facing.
That's right.
Yes.
So we have started. Media was also present during that summit, but it's not yet as big as what we want to be. It means in the second summit, probably 2 years from now or a year from now, we hope that we get more media attention this time around.
Educating our kababayans on biodiversity conservation through environmental journalism is indeed very important, especially with the oil spills that are happening right
Yes.
now. We really have to be educated on the repercussions, especially to fisher folks and to the general public.
And encouraging the citizen science. That means our people, our citizens can even be the scientists themselves. So we are also advocating for citizen science among our peers, among our stakeholders.
And do you have grant programs for CSOs working with fisher folks in Calamnes, Calayan, and Zambales related to sustainable livelihood and biodiversity conservation?
So here's the case, Rico. This USAID has 3 portfolios in that area. One of them is fish right, which is actually dealing with biodiversity, reducing threats to biodiversity. There's one focused on livelihood, and there's one focused on enforcement. So the 3 of us, the 3 programs of USAID or portfolio of USAID, are working together to deal with this issue. So livelihood is covered by one of the USAID's program called Inspire, and the enforcement is covered by one of our programs called CBOL.
So what kind of support do you give through these grants?
So the grants are both in capacity building and as well as also in some to some extent some starting capital for say post-harvest activities, for trade, as well as for supply chain and value chain. So these are small amounts, but mostly on capacity building of our NGOs as well as of our POs.
All the best with your project, Mr. Armada, and thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.
Thank you for having me, Asari.
USAID Fish Right Chief of Party, Nygiel Armada.